My name is Lindsay Miller, and for this project we were supposed to research a career of choice, and as you guys know, my major is photography. But as I was doing the research, I realized that I couldn't find a lot of information on photography because it's so broad. There's like many different types of photographers, like freelance photographers, studio photographers, and I couldn't pinpoint which photography I wanted to do, so I decided to go with my second career of choice, which was a veterinary technologist. So I will first talk about my work tasks as a vet tech. The work tasks of a vet tech include observing animals' behavior and nursing the animals back to health, and collecting blood, urine, tissue samples, and taking and developing x-rays. But their main duty is to make sure the animals are cared for carefully and humanely. In order to become a vet tech, one needs to go through 2 levels of education: 4 years to be a vet technologist and 2 years for a vet technician. And depending on what state you work in, you have to go through a series of exams, and you have to become registered, licensed, or certified. A post-secondary program is also required in order to become a vet tech, and you also must take math and science classes in high school so you can prepare yourself for a higher education within the program. Some of the physical dangers for a vet tech include being kicked or scratched or bitten, because you are working with different sizes of animals. You work with mice, you work with horses, so there are different strength capacities for these animals, so they are more prone to these illnesses and injuries every day because they're working with these animals, they're cleaning these animals, they're restraining them, and they're more prone to illnesses as well, because they're working with sick and injured and aggressive and scared animals, so they have a higher rate of being bitten, scratched, or kicked. As I said before, they could be working with horses or hamsters because there are different types of veterinary technologists who work primarily with big animals and others who work primarily with smaller animals. Technical difficulty, my computer died, so we're going to continue with where I left off. Vet techs' working conditions are typically in private clinics, laboratories, and animal hospitals, but some vet techs may also work in zoos, rescue leagues, animal shelters, and kennels. And just as it would be working in a hospital, this job is physically and emotionally demanding. They witness dying, abused, sick, injured, and unwanted animals. So vet techs have a huge heart for animals, and working with these types of animals every day is emotionally and physically exhausting. Some of their work-related interests include just hanging out with animals, or they could do volunteer work such as working at the Humane Society or going to dog parks or walking dogs just for volunteer work. In order to become a vet tech, one must pass a credentialing exam, and most states require vet techs to pass the Veterinary Technician National Exam. One must also have laboratory experience before that they can become certified. Some of the important qualities one must have in order to become a vet tech is communication skills, compassion, attention to detail, manual dexterity, and problem-solving skills. And communication skills are very important because not only do you need to communicate with the animals effectively, but you have to communicate with their owners and your clients and your employees. Attention to detail is very important too, because if you don't notice something right away, it could screw up the process of something else. For example, me and my friend Mary over here, we found a stray cat who had open wounds, and we didn't know that they were bot flies until we brought it into the vet. So depending on whether or not you're knowledgeable in that area, you might treat it differently whether you knew it was a bot fly or just an open wound. As I had just explained, there are many things in order to become prepared to be a vet tech. Some of them include being a good communicator, taking science and math classes in high school or in a post-secondary program. You also must be prepared to work in a laboratory or a private clinic, and one must be prepared to endure physical and emotional pain when dealing with animals. Some things to practice when being interviewed to be a vet tech would be your communication skills and your compassion and your character, because if your interviewer doesn't see that you're compassionate or passionate about animals, they're not going to want to hire you, and you need to have a heart for them. One should also be prepared with a resume that shows any work experience or any higher education that goes towards working to be a vet tech. You should also practice being in an interview with your friend just to go over some of the main questions the interviewer might ask you. Since 2012, the median pay of a vet tech was a little over $30,000 per year, or a little over $14.50 an hour. From the years 2012 to 2022, the employment rate of a vet tech has increased over 30%, or is predicted to grow over 30%. And the number of employment for the vet tech in 2012 was 85,000, and by 2022 it's predicted to grow to about 110,000. The only job advancement that would be appropriate would be a veterinarian, and in order to become a veterinarian, you would need to complete your doctoral degree and receive a state license. Some of the current job listings for a vet tech include ones in Rochester, Blaine, Woodbury, Richfield, and some of them are for emergency veterinary technicians, and others are just vet techs for pet hospitals. Some of the key findings that I found were their work tasks. I had no idea that they took or developed x-rays. I had no idea that they collected blood, urine, and tissue samples, so that was surprising. I knew that their work was physically and emotionally demanding, and that was one of the reasons why I decided not to go into that field, because I just didn't think I would be able to handle all of that emotional exhaustion by the end of the day. I also didn't realize that the pay was that low because of all of the education and exams that you have to go through in order to become a vet tech. Some of the things I found interesting were, like I said, the pay, and like I said, all of the exams that you have to take and all of the pain and emotional things that you have to go through. I figured that the pay might be a little bit higher to compensate for that. My perspective on the career would be the same, emotionally draining. My family has a huge heart for animals, and so I grew up with wanting to help animals a lot, so that's why I didn't choose this field. But yeah, so that's my presentation. Thank you. And my computer just went black.